At the time of this recording, World of Color Happiness has been playing at Disney California Adventure for about 2 weeks or so. I finally got to watch this show for the first time not too long ago, and I have some opinions on it. It's a very, very interesting show. This is the second World of Color show that I'm making a review video for. I made a review video for World of Color 1 not too long ago. So if you're interested in World of Color 1, go and check out that video right there. But today we're going to dig into the newest World of Color show, which of course is World of Color Happiness. This show debuted in May of 2025 as part of the Disneyland Resort 70th celebration. I think it's a big mixed bag. So there's a lot of things that Happiness does well, and there's a lot of things that Happiness does really, really poorly. So I think that makes it an interesting show to talk about. And honestly, from what I've seen online, it looks like Happiness is getting a lot of hate. And just from the people that I've talked to, it seems like the popular opinion is that World of Color 1 is better than World of Color Happiness. And honestly, I think I disagree. And we're going to dig into why throughout this review video. Before we get started, please like this video. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've seen World of Color Happiness, what you think of it. What is your favorite part? What is your least favorite part? Let me know down below. And of course, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate your support. My YouTube analytics says we have over 20,000 returning viewers over the last month. So if you've watched more than one video, please consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. I went into World of Color Happiness with no spoilers. I've seen that piece of concept art that Disney released, so I knew what characters were going to be in the show. But I didn't know how it was going to work, what order they were going to come in, how it was going to be integrated into the story. And honestly, the biggest surprise from World of Color Happiness, in my opinion, was the pre-show. It's like literally the greatest thing I've ever seen. It was so much fun. So along with Disneyland Park turning 70 years old in 2025, the Muppets are also celebrating 70 years of existence, which is pretty cool. I'm not really a big Muppets guy. I never really got into the Muppets, but the way that they're used in World of Color Happiness is very, very well done. This pre-show is absolutely fantastic, and I think I liked it so much because this is like theme park nerd humor, and I had no idea it was coming. So the premise of the pre-show is that the Muppets are trying to deliver the safety information for the show before the show starts. So they're on like a timer, and they're dealing with like a lawyer who keeps explaining why they're doing it wrong. But I was totally like nerding out the first time I watched this pre-show. I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and I've watched it on video like 30 times since I saw it live for the first time. The big running gag through this pre-show is don't jump in the bay.
So sing and dance and have some fun, but don't jump in the bay, please.
That's not a safety announcement that they use for like their actual safety announcements for like any show, because that's just like common sense. Don't jump in the water. So I don't know if this is a reference to something that someone actually did. When I watched the pre-show, I searched YouTube. I was like, man jumping into World of Color water, but I couldn't find anything. So I'm curious to know if this was pitched because someone actually jumped in the water, which I think would make it even funnier. But as I said, I think that this pre-show is like total theme park nerd humor, and I don't know how many people will appreciate it because it's like right up my alley, but I don't know, it seems a little niche, a little bizarre. Like some people might find it off-putting and weird. I don't think it's gonna have the most mass appeal outside of Muppet fans and like theme park fans like myself. But it's also really well written. Like everything pretty much comes full circle. It's well knit. They might have put more effort into the pre-show for World of Color Happiness than the actual show, which is kind of hilarious. I don't even really know how to comment on this pre-show because it kind of comments on itself as it continues. So let's just dig in through my favorite moments. I love when Fozzie comes up and he makes a joke about faucets and the World of Color fountains.
Fozzie, no. You know this lagoon has 1,200 fountains? Talk about a multi-faceted show! Pardon the interruption. Nope.
Also, if you look at the coaster, the lights on the coaster look like the fountains, so that's pretty cute. When it's Miss Piggy's turn to run through the safety information, she has like a grand entrance and then she pauses it and she's like unimpressed with the fountains. She's like, come on, you guys can do better. And then the fountains like spray her. So she's like completely upset. So she sings,
Alright, let's get this over with. Legal Schmeagle Boy, don't jump in the bay. Jump in the bay? Who does that? Regrettably, legal Schmeagle is not recognized by our judicial system. We're gonna need that again with clarity.
I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Gonzo's response to not jumping into the bay is that he's allowed to jump over the bay with his cannon. So at the end of the pre-show, they finally fire Gonzo's cannon. And I like how the lights like represent him flying out. And then they have like a splash in the water, which is supposed to represent Gonzo jumping in the bay. I think that lighting effect is pretty cool. It worked really well in person. And then Sam's final sign off.
And don't jump in the bay, please.
Like the dismay in his voice is just absolutely hilarious. And right after that, you have Statler and Waldorf saying,
The eagle was right. That really was a spectacular. A spectacular disappointment. Yeah, you're all wet.
which I think is hilarious. That's amazing. When I first saw it, I thought they were commenting on the entire pre-show as a whole, but they're just commenting on the canon, so that's a little disappointing. I kind of wish they would just lean into the meanness and let them criticize the whole thing. That's not what they did. It should have swung harder, in my opinion. And then the attorney joke at the end is also pretty funny.
Despite these mixed messages, the Muppet Studio does not condone, encourage, or advise entry into the bay via jumping, leaping, or cannon. Now, if you're thinking of ignoring these legal guidelines, as an attorney, I'd advise you to quit it. Or should I say, acquit it.
Probably my favorite aspect of the whole pre-show is that they tie in the actual safety announcement into the pre-show. So the pre-show is going to lead into the safety announcement, like directly.
Now please listen to the following.
Good evening, everyone. In just a few minutes, the lights surrounding Paradise Bay will be dimmed, so you may fully experience Disney's nighttime spectacular, World of Color Happiness.
And then you've probably heard that safety announcement like a billion times before. So after it's repeated in Spanish, the water screens are going to come back on.
Unos minutos. Gracias.
That's entertainment. Should have had those guys do that in the first place.
Like, that's just perfect. That's so well done. I was totally geeking out, as I said. I thought this whole thing was so well done, and I had no idea what was gonna happen. Like, I thought we had like 10 minutes until the show started. So like when the lights turned off and the fountains turned on, I was like, what is happening? This might be one of my favorite sequences in World of Color history. Like, I'm not even kidding. I think it was so well done, and I'm really excited to go back to DCA to watch this pre-show again. I might watch the pre-show and then dip. That's how good it is. I'm not even kidding. It's so good. I cannot express how much I like it. But we're gonna dig into the World of Color Happiness proper. So after that brief moment where they finally get the safety approval, they played that like Jonas Brothers song that Disney had them write for the 70th. It's not that great in my opinion. And then eventually the show is actually going to get started. So one of my major criticisms of World of Color Happiness is that it doesn't have a theme song of its own. It uses Rainbow Connection. I love Rainbow Connection. Even though I'm not a big Muppets guy, I used to listen to Rainbow Connection a lot. So it's an emotional, heartwarming song. So when it first got started, like, I felt that emotion. This opening sequence is very, like, dreamlike, there's a lot going on. So it starts with Rainbow Connection, and then a Walt Disney audio plays.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side?
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
They have the fountains form the shape of the Disneyland castle. At that moment, my hopes for the show got way too high. Because the pre-show was incredible, and I was like, okay, this is a pretty solid start. But after those two moments, it kind of, like I said, this opening sequence is very dreamlike. So there's a lot of different musical sequences, and I don't think it works that well together. Right after Walt Disney, you have the World of Color motif, and then that goes directly into the Inside Out theme. And then you have music from Peter Pan while looking at Winnie the Pooh and Dumbo.
Think of the happiest things. It's the same as
And then you have music from Lion King, you have music from Snow White, music from Finding Nemo, and then you have Pinocchio singing I Had Strings. And then probably the most egregious example is Ariel's song. It like completely clashes with the vibe of the intro sequence. In my opinion, it just sounds very clunky. And then you have music from Cinderella while looking at clips from Lilo and Stitch before you finally go back into Rainbow Connection. So I understand what they were going for with this intro. It's very loose, very flowy, very dreamlike, but it's not my favorite. I think I would have preferred if it just kicked into high gear immediately. Like, that's what a lot of nighttime spectaculars do. For World of Color, it's a little different because the art form itself is fountains. Like, they're very one note, you know? So you can't go all out at the beginning because then, like, what do you do for the rest of the show? Like, they only have so many fountains that can only do so many different patterns in so many different ways. And it's like a 20-minute show. So most of World of Color shows have a very simple intro, but again, I would have preferred if World of Color Happiness had its own theme song instead of Rainbow Connection, as much as I love Rainbow Connection. Something I want to note before we get too far into the show is that the lights on the coaster and on the wheel are really, really good. I don't know if they updated the lights on the wheel, but they're used very well throughout the show. Like, there's multiple examples where I'm like, I've never seen that design used before. Like, they have the waves flowing from the coaster to the wheel. They should have used that for World of Color 1 because the whole theme of that show was making waves. That's, oh my gosh. Anyway, Walt Disney's gonna come back up and he's gonna lead into the Inside Out characters. So just like for World of Color Celebrate, World of Color Happiness has hosts, which is very interesting. I don't know why for these anniversary World of Color shows they have to have hosts, but I prefer the Inside Out characters to Neil Patrick Harris and Mickey Mouse. That was so bizarre. I can't believe they did that. World of Color Celebrate just feels like a fever dream. I think most people forgot that show even happened. Because honestly, that's what I would most compare World of Color Happiness to, because these are the two World of Color shows that have like hosts. But that's a very natural transition where joy jumps at the word joy from Walt Disney's quote.
Disneyland will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.
Did someone say joy? We gotta wake this place up!
That's really well done in my opinion. One of the first things that Joy says is that we gotta wake this place up, which also ties into the dream atmosphere of the intro sequence. So the major outline of World of Color Happiness is that it runs through what makes each emotion happy. So this first sequence is technically the Inside Out sequence, even though these characters have a presence throughout the entire show. It's basically a sing-along with Joy. Fountains are really cool with the bouncing motions. It's very high energy. Some of the one-liners from Disgust and Ennui are very funny. Something else about World of Color Happiness is I think that this is the most interactive World of Color show Disney has ever done. As far as I know, this is the first like sing-along moment in any World of Color show, which is crazy that it took so long to do this. I mean, it makes sense, but that's not really my thing, personally. I kind of side with Ennui on this. I'm sure a lot of people do like it. Like, there were a bunch of people like dancing in my audience and having a great time. That's what matters. It's a very high energy sequence and I appreciate it. So that sequence is going to lead into a conversation between Joy and Envy. And here's one of my major problems with World of Color Happiness. This sequence right here feels like a storyboarded version of what the final product should have been. Like, I don't know why they couldn't animate these characters having this conversation.
Oh my gosh, Joy, that was amazing. You're so amazing and talented and bubbly and happy. How am I ever going to be as happy as you? Oh, Envy, there are so many ways to be happy. It's a little different for each of us.
But it looks really bad. Envy's mouth isn't even moving when she's talking, and she's like the only thing to look at. And then the same thing with Joy. And she like pauses before she chases after Joy. It's so poorly done. I don't understand. It literally felt like I was looking at a storyboard. It was like a behind the scenes thing. But this is the final product, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure they created animation specifically for this show, especially in the Incredibles sequence, which we'll get to later. But like for the hosts of the show, they just use recycled animation. For these conversations with one-on-one between Joy and one of the emotions, where they don't have animation of those characters talking, it's not great. Like, these are the hosts of the show, so I don't understand why they didn't get their own animation, you know? That's kind of stupid. This sequence also has a teaser for something that's gonna come at the end of the show, which is a little bizarre, but you know, whatever.
Aw, you guys! Sorry, that's a surprise for later. Let's just forget you saw that one.
Why is Joy blaming the other emotions? She's literally the one that pressed the button. That's kind of toxic, Joy. But eventually, Envy reveals that boy bands make her happy. They talk about the personality islands from the Inside Out movies. They kind of gloss over the fact that the family island is smaller than it used to be, which I feel like they should have brought that back full circle like the movies did, but it's just never brought up again. So that's a great transition into the Turning Red sequence, which is the boy band from Turning Red, 4Town or whatever. And then eventually that's going to lead into the Goofy movie sequence with Eye to Eye. Just like the Joy sequence, these two are both very high energy moments. And the lights are cool. Then the hosts are gonna come back, and then we're gonna dive into the next sequence, which is what makes Sadness happy. Again, this animation looks like storyboarded. This should not be the final product. Sadness doesn't really say what makes her happy, and Joy just like forces dreams upon her. So there's that. And then this sequence is from Wish. Never seen Wish. I don't know this character. I've heard this song before. What kind of annoys me is they brought back the Phantasmic bubbles from Florida. I can't escape these stupid bubbles. Oh my gosh. I'm so tired of them. Even World of Color 1 used these stupid bubbles. There's just no escape, guys. But considering I've never watched this movie, this sequence is fine. I do like that the color palette is pretty similar to Sadness's colors, like the blue and the purple. And then the bubbles are gonna come back, and then one of the bubbles will lead you into the Tangled sequence, which is also about dreaming. This is the I've Got a Dream song from Tangled. It's a pretty fun sequence. I am nostalgic for Tangled. I wasn't really expecting this cast of characters to get a whole full-scale sequence in this show. Like, it's pretty long, and it ends with Cupid. And then it's gonna go directly into anger. What makes anger happy? And the answer is action. This sequence right here kind of feels like World of Color Happiness's attempt at a remix like Wondrous Journeys had. The remix sequence in Wondrous Journeys is one of my favorite moments in any nighttime spectacular. I have a full review video of Wondrous Journeys, which you should check out if you have not already. It's absolutely unreal. This one is nowhere near as good. It's instrumental instead of vocal. And it is The Incredibles instruments. It starts with The Incredibles, which is, it's like finally they have an incredible sequence in front of Incredicoaster. I can't believe it actually took this long. That's kind of insane. So this was the animation I was talking about. They animated sequences specifically for this part of the show. So it starts with Incredibles, then it's going to go into the Moana action sequence with the lava monster. It's going to go back to Incredibles, and then Hercules. Hercules has my favorite animation with the falling columns, and there's some fountains that fall along with the projected columns, and I think that's really cool. That's really well done, because he like leans on one of them and then they start to fall over. The projections in this whole sequence are just really well done. Like he chops off the dragon's head and then it goes straight into Tangled again. Obviously this is more intense. It's almost like a Mission Impossible tied with Tangled, which is kind of bizarre. It's the When Will My Life Begin with the Incredibles instruments. For Hercules, it's Where I'm Meant to Be. And for Moana, it's How Far I'll Go. This is where World of Color Happiness uses that big flame, which is pretty cool. And then the sequence ends with Anger saying,
Now that's incredible.
cool, bro. I really think that this sequence had so much potential. They could have worked on it more to be one of the best moments in World of Color history. And I really appreciate the ambition, but I do think it falls flat. I think it could have been so much better than it is. But again, I do appreciate the ambition of putting all these sequences together. So up next is Anxiety. Anxiety is introduced in a similar manner to how she was introduced in Inside Out 2. I think it's because they were literally reusing the same animations they had in Inside Out 2, so I wonder why they made that decision. But Anxiety is a great transition into Surface Pressure.
Oh, Anxiety. What do you think makes her happy?
Ooh, lots of things. She loves
Manage your calendar, walk your dog, carry your things, watch you sleep, and make sure we're prepared for all the terrible things that could possibly go wrong. Huh, seems like trying to make everyone happy would be a lot of pressure.
This is a way better Encanto sequence than the one from World of Color 1. I love the orange fountains. It ties in with Anxiety, so like the color scheme of the sequence with the character that it's attached to with the hosts. I think that's really well done because, as I mentioned, with Sadness and Wish, and now Encanto and Anxiety. This might be the most visually impressive sequence in the entire show, with the Anxiety lines and obviously the animations from Encanto. And the music is really well done. This is my favorite song from that film. I'm a big fan of this sequence. And then again, they use the flamethrower again. And then to wrap things up, they're kind of out of time, so they're gonna tie Ennui with Fear into this sequence. Ennui says "Let It Go," and I was like, "There's no way they're about to play "Let It Go" right now," but they didn't, thank God. And then Fear goes on a rant about how am I supposed to be happy when there's so much to be scared of. So Elsa was included in the concept art, so I thought they were going to use Show Yourself in World of Color Happiness, but that was not the case. They actually used Into the Unknown, and it's just like a brief part leads into the villain sequence, so it's very small scale, which is not what I expected. I really expected Elsa to have a full-blown sequence, you know? This is the villain sequence. So World of Color Happiness did a great job of separating fear and anxiety. Because I remember when Inside Out 2 first came out, people were like, why is anxiety even an emotion? Because fear already is there. And World of Color Happiness like shows the difference between pressure and like genuine fear, like villains versus self-inflicted pressure. They're just very, very different sequences. Inside Out 2 is an amazing movie, by the way. I absolutely love it. But the thing is, the show is about what makes Fear happy, so villains are like the opposite of what makes him happy, because he literally says that being safe is what makes him happy, so I don't know why that leads into the villain sequence. Apparently this reuses animation from World of Color Villainous. I don't even know what's going on with World of Color Villainous. I think they retired it after like 1 or 2 years, which is kind of hilarious. I never got to watch it. Maybe they'll bring it back at some point. But again, very similar to the intro. It's just like there's so much going on that none of the villains have a moment to shine, unlike Phantasmic. So it's just like I don't even know what I'm looking at. Anxiety is included as one of the villains. Like, yes, she was the antagonist of Inside Out 2, but like, why is she alongside Hades, Maleficent, Evil Queen, Chernobog? It's just like, huh? One of these is not like the other, you know? But I think they only included her because she's literally threatening fear. It is what it is, I guess. This is very weak for a villain sequence, if I'm being honest. So the sequence ends with reused animation from Inside Out 2. The emotions all escape the villains, and that makes Fear happy, obviously. I just noticed that they landed on Family Island, so I guess they did bring it full circle, so great job, no notes. And then this is gonna be the finale sequence of World of Color Happiness? Question mark. I say question mark because this show has like 3 finales, so we're gonna dig into them. The first one is like the traditional finale for any of these shows. Envy and Joy realize that togetherness is happiness, and the colors of the emotions from Inside Out make a rainbow, and then Rainbow Connection starts playing again. As I said, Rainbow Connection is great, but I don't think it hits as much as it could have.
Said that every wish
So after Rainbow Connection ends, Walt Disney's gonna come back, and then the animation of the castle and Tinkerbell is back.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
The spotlight is on Mickey Mouse. That feels like a very natural ending to the show, but this is when we kick into the second ending, which is a dance party. I don't know how I feel about that. A dance party at the end of a World of Color show is like the most Shrek 2 thing that the Disney company has ever done. I was like, what am I watching right now? Obviously, it ties into the teaser that was earlier in the show, but it's just like, there's a lot of footage used from Partysaurus Rex, which is kind of funny. Also, when World of Color Happiness was first announced, it said that Fits in the Tantrums was working on a theme song for the show, and I got really excited because I'm nostalgic for a lot of those Fits in the Tantrums songs. This is the song they made for Disney, and it's used as the dance party music, so I'm like, oh, like I thought we were getting a Fits in the Tantrums theme song for World of Color Happiness, which I was like, that vibe could have been perfect, but that's just not what worked out, so it is what it is. Also, during this sequence, I love the lighting on the wheel and on the coaster. They have like the empty space striping. I don't think they've ever done that before, so I don't know if they reprogrammed the lighting, if they got new lights. I don't think they got new lights. That's just really cool visually. And then at the end of the dance party, all the emotions come together and all their different colors make a rainbow. The fountains make the shape of the Disneyland castle, and then it goes to all black. That is the official finale to the show, World of Color Happiness. The reason I say it has 3 finales is because the post-show for World of Color Happiness is very bizarre. I like the music for the post-show, and I like the lighting on the wheel. It's like stars. It looks really pretty. But it's a very, very elaborate post-show. Like, the clip I'm showing you right now, you think that this looks like it's part of the show, but this is the post-show. And for reference, this is what the vast majority of the post-show looks like for the original World of Color show. Like, it's very obviously the end of the show. Like, there's not much going on visually. And here it's like overstimulating. It's like, what is this, you know? It looks like the show is still going, but you know, this is supposed to be what's happening as you're walking away. But you know, this is like too interesting to walk away from. So it's like, it feels like a third finale, you know? And unlike a vast majority of the other World of Color shows, the logo for World of Color Happiness doesn't pop up at the beginning of the post show like it does for World of Color 1 or for the OG World of Color. It pops up at the very end of the post show. So I kind of wish it sticked with the tradition popping up right before the post show gets started, but you know, it is what it is. I also like how it's projected on the fountains. I love when World of Color does that, when they have these large scale fountains and then the projection is on those fountains as they're falling, and then the mist screen like catches it as the fountains disappear. So that's pretty cool. Also, I mentioned how World of Color Happiness might be the most interactive World of Color show that Disney has ever designed. They have like a voting system, and I voted before I knew what I was voting for, because you could pick one of the inside out emotions, and I'm pretty sure what you vote for is the final bow. So I've seen anger, I've seen disgust, and I think sadness has one as well.
But what are you still doing here? It's over. No, really. Get out of here.
Thank you for joining us for World of Color Happiness.
So that's kind of cool. I love that World of Color is keeping the tradition of the bowing fountains. Like, that is a Walt Disney reference. But you combine the 3 aspects of the entertaining safety announcements with the pre-show. You have the sing-along and the joy sequence, and then you vote for the finale. This is hands down the most interactive World of Color show. And that is World of Color Happiness. So we're gonna dig into a few thoughts that I have. This show exists because it is the 70th anniversary of Disneyland Park. And you know what this show is lacking? References to Disneyland. Like, I only caught 4. The 2 obvious ones are the intro and the finale with Walt Disney and the castle imagery. Something else that's kind of interesting is that there's 9 emotions in Inside Out 2. There's 9 emotions used in this show. And there's 9 different themed lands at Disneyland Park. I don't know if that was intentional or if I'm just overanalyzing, but that is kind of cool. There is also 9 letters in the word happiness, so that's pretty cool. But again, that's probably just a coincidence, to be honest. What I want to know is, why do these anniversary World of Color shows need hosts? Like, why can't they just be a normal World of Color show like the OG or like World of Color 1. So Happiness is most comparable to Celebrate, and I think it absolutely demolishes Celebrate. It's way more entertaining. It's much more high energy. The hosts are way better. It has way better transitions. There's a lot of moments of creativity, and the pre-show for World of Color Happiness is way better than anything in World of Color Celebrate. I do like how Celebrate has those sequences devoted to some of the rides, but you know, whatever. If you want sequences devoted to specific rides, you should go watch Tapestry of Happiness on Small World. That one is pretty cute. I think they took inspiration from World of Color Celebrate, to be honest, to make that projection show, which is kind of funny. So in my opinion, World of Color Happiness is much more well-structured than World of Color 1 because of the hosts and how it dives into what makes each emotion happy. World of Color 1 just kind of abandons its theme halfway through, and then it picks it up again for the finale. So Happiness sticks to its theme much more. But honestly, I think Happiness might be lower quality overall. Like, just watching some of the reactions from the crowd I was in, I don't think this is going to be a fan favorite. It'll probably stick around for a year or two, and then we're never going to see it again. But I think a vast majority of Disneyland guests are going to miss World of Color 1 when you directly compare it to World of Color Happiness. That's also just from discussions online. It seems like not that many people are fans of Happiness. My biggest issues with the show are the storyboard emotions. They really should have animated these characters having these conversations because they literally wrote them out. They had the actors say these lines specifically for Happiness, but they didn't animate the characters saying them. Like, they're literally the hosts of the show. Also, it is kind of messy that the Muppets have the theme song and they have the pre-show, but the Inside Out emotions get to be the hosts. Like, honestly, you could have had one or the other. Could have had the Muppets be the hosts of Happiness, or you could have just dumped the Muppets and given the entire show to the Inside Out emotions. Like, having both, as much as I love the intro, that's kind of a mess. Maybe they pitched having the Muppets as being the hosts, and then Inside Out 2 made $1 billion, so they're like, sorry, Kermit, you know? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Muppets pre-show was developed separately from the rest of World of Color Happiness, and then it was just tacked on. Because in the Muppets pre-show, they don't specifically say World of Color Happiness. They do say 70th anniversary, but that might have been made before they were even planning to have a 70th anniversary World of Color show. Honestly, I kind of want to know how many hours go into producing these new World of Color shows. That could be pretty interesting. Also, my other big problem with World of Color Happiness is the fact that it doesn't have a theme song, that it just uses Rainbow Connection, so it's kind of lacking identity of its own. I'm curious if that was a last minute change. Maybe Disney wasn't happy with what Fitz and the Tantrums came up with, so they just threw in Rainbow Connection, or maybe they realized they needed to tie the Muppets into the show more. I don't even know. And that is my opinion on World of Color Happiness. Do you agree with these thoughts? Do you disagree? Please let me know down in the comments below. What is your favorite part of the show? What is your least favorite part of the show? Please like this video, and of course, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate your support. Thank you so much, and I will catch you later.